Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing that almost every important choice in your life had already been made before you were born. The school you would attend, the kind of work you would probably do, how much of your life you would sell just to keep living. Now imagine something even more uncomfortable. What if none of that was an accident? What if the modern world had been carefully arranged to keep most people busy, exhausted, and small? We all grew up hearing the same story. Study hard, get a good job, work with discipline, and one day you'll be free. But something strange happens along the way. You start to notice that the more people follow that plan, the more trapped they seem to become. They wake up early, sit in traffic, spend 8, 9, 10 hours working, come home exhausted, and then do it all over again the next day, for decades. And when retirement finally arrives, many of them are already too worn down to live the life they spent 40 years putting off. That raises an uncomfortable question. If the system was truly designed to make people free, why does it seem to do exactly the opposite? To understand that, we need to go back in time. Long before offices, spreadsheets, and 9-to-5 jobs, there was the Industrial Revolution. That was the moment when the first modern structures of mass labor were built. Thousands of people needed to be organized, trained, and made ready to work inside factories. And for that to function at scale, something entirely new had to be created: a standardized educational system. Modern schools were not designed simply to teach knowledge. They were designed to teach behavior, to sit in silence for hours, to follow instructions without questioning them, to ask permission before speaking, to be constantly evaluated, and to compete against each other for approval. And the most important thing that school teaches? That someone else decides when you're good enough, that someone else grades your effort, that someone else tells you whether you passed or failed. That lesson doesn't leave the classroom. It follows most people for the rest of their lives. These rules might feel completely normal to you today, but think about them for a moment. They are almost identical to the rules of a workplace. Arrive on time, complete your assigned tasks, follow orders, and wait for validation from someone above you. This doesn't mean education is bad, but it does mean it was built to prepare people for a very specific kind of life, a life of compliance. After school comes the next phase, work. For generations, we were taught that a stable job is the safest path to success. But here is where another paradox appears. The more someone depends on a job to survive, the less real freedom that person actually has. Because losing the job means losing income. Losing income means losing security. And that dependency creates something incredibly powerful: conformity. Most people can't afford to openly disagree at work. They can't just walk away. They can't take too many risks, because the entire system was built to make risk feel terrifying. And when millions of people live that way simultaneously, something entirely predictable happens. Their whole lives begin to orbit around maintaining stability, not exploring possibilities, not creating, not questioning too much. Just keep functioning. But there is another layer to this system, one that is far less visible: the attention economy. Today, every single minute of your time is being competed for by enormous companies: apps, social media, streaming platforms, games, notifications, algorithms. All of them engineered with one single purpose: to keep you watching, scrolling, clicking, and coming back tomorrow. These companies spend billions of dollars studying human psychology to discover exactly what triggers your brain to release small doses of dopamine. Every notification, every like, every autoplay video, None of that is random. It was engineered by teams of the smartest engineers in the world whose only job is to make it harder for you to put your phone down. Because the more time you spend distracted, the more profitable you become. Which means that after a full day of work, the small amount of free time you have left is also being carefully fought over. Not to expand your life, but to capture your attention. And when you add all of this together, the picture starts to become clear. School shapes behavior, work consumes time, and entertainment captures attention. Three completely different structures, but with a remarkably similar effect, keeping people just occupied enough to keep participating in the system, without ever stopping long enough to question it. Now, this doesn't mean there's a secret room where someone pulls all the strings. Systems like this rarely need a single architect. They sustain themselves because everyone inside them depends on the system continuing to run. Companies need consumers, governments need workers, industries need productivity. And when billions of people are locked inside that same model, changing the whole structure becomes almost impossible to imagine. But here is the most important part. Even if the system was designed this way, that does not mean your life has to follow the same script. Because the greatest limitation isn't the system itself. It's believing that the system is inevitable. Throughout history, the most significant shifts began with people who simply stopped accepting the standard version of what life was supposed to look like. They questioned rules that everyone else had accepted. They explored paths no one had told them existed. They built things that didn't exist before. And slowly, they expanded what was considered possible. Today, there have never been more tools available to do exactly that. To learn any skill on Earth for free, to create projects from nothing, to build an audience around something real, to share ideas that reach millions, to connect with people anywhere in the world. The system may try to keep you small, but it also accidentally created, without ever intending to, the very tools that allow you to step outside its limits. And perhaps the most important question isn't whether the system was designed this way. The real question is different. Are you going to keep following the script, or are you finally going to start writing your own? Because the moment someone begins to question what has always been considered normal, something powerful happens. The possibility of living differently finally becomes real. And for many people, that single moment of clarity is the first step towards stopping being just another piece of the machine. Most people never take that step, not because they lack the tools, but because the system is extraordinarily good at making the status quo feel safe and any alternative feel dangerous. The fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of leaving behind what feels familiar. These fears are real, but they were also carefully cultivated, because a person who is afraid is a person who stays inside the lines. You don't have to be that person, and becoming something far rarer, someone who is truly free. If this made you stop and think, the next video goes even deeper. It's already there, waiting for you.